Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the connection between exercise and, well, how long and how well we live.
It's a huge topic.
Totally. We've got some great info here looking at, what kinds of movement seem to matter most for longevity, right down to our cells, and how much you actually need.
Yeah.
And something that jumped out at me right away, this difference between just being active day to day versus, like, planned exercise can have a pretty surprising impact on lifespan.
It really can. When you look at the research, what types of activity correlate best with living longer, it consistently points to two main things.
Mm,
Cardiovascular exercise.
right, getting the heart rate up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And strength training. And what's really interesting is they seem to tackle different but equally vital parts of the aging process.
Okay, so it's not just about, say, hitting your daily step count then. How does exercise actually slow things down inside our bodies at that deep level?
Well, if you connect it to cellular aging, exercise looks remarkably protective. Some studies focus on telomeres.
Ah, yes, the caps on the end of our chromosomes, like little plastic tips on shoelaces.
Precisely. And exercise seems to help keep those telomeres longer, which, could potentially mean your cells stay younger for longer.
Wow, okay, that's pretty concrete. So back to that idea you mentioned, general activity versus structured workouts. Why is that distinction so important, specifically for, like, longevity, not just feeling fit today?
Well, being active, generally taking the stairs, walking around, that's definitely good for you, no question.
Sure.
But structured exercise, planned sessions aimed at improving heart health, building muscle, that tends to trigger more significant physiological changes.
Ah, so it's about intentionally stressing the body a bit.
Kind of, yeah. To get those really beneficial responses, specific hormones get released, muscle fibers adapt in certain ways, things that are really key for fighting off age-related decline.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay,
Definitely.
so we know what kinds of exercise are good, but how much? What's the minimum dose, you could say, to start seeing these life-extending benefits really kick in?
That's always the big question, isn't it? And look, more can be better, up to a point, but the good news is even pretty modest amounts make a difference.
Okay.
The general guidelines often suggest something like 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity a week. Think brisk walking, light cycling.
Cool.
Or about 75 minutes of vigorous activity like running or swimming laps. Plus, and this is important, strength training at least twice a week.
Right. Consistency seems key there.
Absolutely. It's more about regularity than intensity, especially at first.
And let's flip that. What happens if we just don't move enough?
Yeah.
What are the big long-term downsides of being sedentary?
The consequences are pretty major, unfortunately. Lack of activity significantly bumps up your risk for all the big chronic diseases.
Like heart disease.
Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, yeah, even some cancers. Plus, it contributes massively to losing muscle mass, sarcopenia, and bone density.
Which impacts quality of life hugely as we get older.
Exactly. Independence, risk of falls, it's all connected.
So exercise isn't just about feeling good now. It's like this powerful preventative medicine. How does it actually work to protect us from those diseases?
Well, it does a few things. It makes your body better at using sugar for energy. That's improving insulin sensitivity, which is huge for preventing diabetes.
Okay.
It helps maintain a healthy weight, obviously, reducing risks linked to obesity. And it directly benefits blood pressure and cholesterol levels.
All key for heart health.
Definitely.
You've mentioned strength training a couple of times. Why is that specific type, building muscle, so vital for, healthy aging? Sometimes it feels overlooked.
It really shouldn't be. Strength training is just fundamental for staying functional and independent. It directly fights that age-related muscle loss we talked about.
Right, the weakness, the frailty.
Exactly. Stronger muscles also support your joints, help protect your bones, and can even give your metabolism a bit of a boost.
Okay, important stuff. And then for the heart and the brain too, what kind of exercise really delivers those cardiovascular benefits?
That's where anything that gets your heart pumping comes in. Brisk walking counts, running, swimming, cycling, dancing even.
Right.
This kind of activity strengthens the heart muscle itself, improves your circulation everywhere, helps lower blood pressure.
And that helps the brain how? Better blood flow.
Precisely. Good circulation means your brain gets plenty of oxygen and nutrients. This is thought to help reduce the risk of things like stroke and maybe even cognitive decline later on.
Okay. Now, we're talking up all these benefits, but is there a danger of doing too much? Can excessive exercise actually work against longevity?
It's a valid point, though. Honestly, most people are nowhere near that level. But yes, very intense training without enough rest and recovery can lead to overtraining.
What does that look like?
Persistent fatigue, performance actually drops, maybe getting sick more often. It just highlights that balance is important. You got to listen to your body.
Right, recovery matters too. Okay, so for someone listening now thinking, okay, I need to move more for my long-term health, what's one practical first step you'd suggest?
I'd say start small, genuinely small, and make it sustainable. Find something you actually enjoy, or at least don't hate.
Makes sense.
Could be a short walk every day, putting on some music and dancing for 10 minutes, trying a few bodyweight exercises. The key is making it a habit. Consistency beats intensity when you're starting.
So wrapping this up, the big message seems pretty clear. Getting a mix of general movement and some structured exercise, especially cardio and strength work, is a really powerful way to influence not just how healthy we are now, but potentially how long we live, right down to ourselves.
Exactly. It's an investment, really.
A proactive investment in a longer, healthier future.
Well put. And maybe that leads to a final thought for you listening. Just take a second to think about your own current relationship with movement. Is there one small, maybe even enjoyable thing you could add to your routine starting today? Think of it as a deposit in your long-term health bank.